Welcome back to Yanks Abroad. Obviously, an incredibly disappointing Nations League performance from the U.S. men's national team. We're going to get right into it with immediate reactions to what we just watched, and there's no really good way of talking about it. It was an incredibly disappointing two matches where nobody seemed up to it. Nobody seemed to care on the pitch. And there's a lot of talk about this is supposed to be the golden generation of United States soccer because of where they play. And I think Landon Donovan was one of the first people to call them out. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure I've agreed with a lot that Landon Donovan has had to say in the past few years because I think he's come off a little bit spiteful, but he's not wrong. I mean, the effort that's being put in by the players who are playing at some of the biggest clubs in the world, but when it comes to playing for the U.S. men's national team is just not up to standard. I mean, look at Weston McKennie in these two matches. He had almost no impact whatsoever. And this is a player who is playing week in and week out for Juventus, who's playing all over the pitch, being asked to do all different types of responsibilities, putting in unbelievable shifts every single week, multiple times a week, 90 minutes. And when he plays for the U.S. men's national team, it looks like he's just walking around. He doesn't care. He's not showing to the ball. He's not making those late runs into the box that we see him make for Juventus. He's not getting involved in build up and showing to the ball more often. I mean, he's just one example of many players who I think are struggling with this exact thing. But it's just so disappointing to see. And yeah, it's like, okay, who cares if we win the Nations League? I don't disagree with that. I'm not going to be like, oh, we're one of the best countries in the world. We won the CONCACAF Nations League. But we only get so many big tournaments, big matches a year, a decade for that matter. There's two World Cups. We missed one of the more recent World Cups. Like this is our, not our Super Bowl, but this is our playoffs. This is our one chance to show that we can play and be excited for the Gold Cup to come. And you know what? I was going to talk about this at the end, but I've already brought up the Gold Cup. The plan was this summer for the Gold Cup for it to be a heavily MLS based side. It was a good opportunity like that January camp to get more MLS players involved. But I think after these performances for Pochettino, you need to get your best players to understand how to play in your system. And he's not going to have the luxury of making this some MLS based side, and hopefully we can still win with an MLS based side. He needs to get the likes of Pulisic, Tanner Tessman, Tyler Adams. I mean, maybe Adams would be the one player he doesn't need to play, but all these players who clearly are lost. And you're forgetting the fact that Serginho Dest has yet to play for Mauricio Pochettino. Anthony Robinson has now missed, I think, 3 of the 4 matches since Pochettino's been in command due to injury. He's been playing so many matches. So I think these players are going to have to play in the Gold Cup, and that's as a fan and as somebody who talks about this as part of their daily life. I would rather see them play because we need to know what is next for this U.S. men's national team. And listen, Pochettino's not on the hot seat because there's no hot seat. He's going to be the manager leading into the 2026 World Cup, no matter how you spin it. But he is on the hot seat. I mean, if we get grouped while hosting the World Cup as the United States of America, that will be one of the most embarrassing sporting feats in our history. I mean, you talk about what we've done at the Olympics as a basketball nation and the few times we haven't won gold. This would be more embarrassing than not winning gold in basketball because we're hosting this event. And you know what? It's not encouraging that we're talking about the U.S. men's national team hosting a World Cup in basically 1 year, and we can't get 20,000 people into SoFi to watch us play. I mean, it's not like this was in the middle of nowhere. This was in Los Angeles at one of the best stadiums in the entire world, one of the most unbelievable stadiums. I've been there. It's worth going to any sporting event there just because of how fantastic it is to be in there. And there was nobody there. It was dead silent. And you know what? The players may say, we don't have anything to fight for. There's no fans cheering for us, but they need to show that we need to show out for them. They're the ones who need to provide something on the pitch for us. And Pochettino, who's supposed to be this great leader of men, who's supposed to be this great leader of young talent, he hasn't been able to prove that quite yet. And I think let's go right into what Pochettino is doing wrong on the pitch. And to me, misprofiling has been far and away his biggest mistake so far. And you've seen it because, yes, we have all these injury issues, and I'm not going to use that as an excuse, but just because we need to talk about all the facts, we should mention that we're without either of our top 2 center forwards. We don't have a center forward. There may not be a center forward that was in this camp that makes the Gold Cup team. Well, Adjuming will make the Gold Cup team, but that makes the World Cup team because it'll be Balogun and Pepe. It's clear that Josh Sargent is no longer a part of the plan for the U.S. men's national team moving forward. He played 60 minutes. He was terrible in the first match. Didn't see the pitch in the second match. It doesn't matter what he does for Norwich. His U.S. men's national team career is over. So you're without Balogun and Pepe. You're without Malik Tillman, who is probably getting close to being your starting 10, if not already earned that right with the way that he's playing. You're playing without Johnny Cardoso, who's had an unbelievable season at Betis, one of the best sixes the U.S. men's national team has ever produced. You have Anthony Robinson out. You have Serginho Dest out. So you're missing at least four, you could say five, of your starting players for this U.S. men's national team. But what that is to say is, instead of Pochettino trying to find replacements who can play in those positions, he spent the entirety of this international break playing players out of positions that they're used to and misprofiling them. And I think when he first came in and we saw him starting to play Musa out as a right winger, we were like, okay, that's interesting. Let's see how he does. He's doing pretty well out there. But the constant moving around of players when you only have so many matches to instill your system is a huge mistake. Yunus Musa being asked to play as a right winger, then being asked to play in central midfield, then being asked to play out on the left side. Tim Weah being asked to play at right back, being asked to play at left wing, being asked to play at striker, being asked to play at right wing. There's no way to understand your roles and responsibilities when you don't get the opportunity to play there. When you're instilling a system, players need to get comfortable with where they're supposed to be, and it was clear in both of these matches that players were not sure where to be. We spoke a lot about the Panama match already, so I just want to talk about some of the tactics that happened in this match with Canada. So this is kind of how we started out, right? This is the base formation. Obviously, in possession, it didn't look anything like this. You had Arfson kind of coming out way higher up here. You had the likes of Adams and McKennie in this double pivot, Weah out wide. Kind of Luna and Pulisic here, but Luna kind of dropped in here. McKennie was nowhere. I mean, McKennie was supposed to be next here, next to Adams, and then McKenzie, Carter Vickers, and Scally. I've spoken a lot about, for a club level, why Christian Pulisic is a central attacker. But I think the key to remember about Christian Pulisic being a central attacker is it has everything to do with the striker he is paired with. So, with Josh Sargent, with Adjumang, with Brian White, whoever it is that was up there during this international break, Pulisic wants to be in these areas. This player wants to be in these areas and further up the pitch. The difference is when it's Tammy Abraham or, for the United States, Ricardo Pepi or Folarin Balogun, this player is willing to drop into here to play off of Pulisic. So they're playing a two-man game in these areas. Whereas if Adjumang is up here and Pulisic is here and Adams is receiving the ball here, there's a whole line of defenders that can just mark Pulisic. He's not finding those pockets of space because there isn't pockets of space because you've got no distraction from Adjumang pulling players away. You have Weah holding this width way out here. You have Arson way out here. And then you have four players guarding two. And so therefore, Pulisic's not able to attack as a central attacker. If this is who our striker is going to be, then Pulisic needs to be out here, and you need to play with McKennie in here and Tessman here. You can't play Pulisic as a central attacker with this type of striker who is not willing to get involved in build-up. And I think Adjumang did all right during this international break. I mean, obviously he got a goal, probably should have scored the winner against Panama, but he got into good positions. I like the player he is, but the dynamics do not work with Adjumang there and Pulisic playing through the center. And Pochettino, who was just so desperate for central access, just continued to play his best player there to try and force the ball in there. What he should have done in this match is had Pulisic as your widest attacker here, Luna in the pockets here, and then you play Arfson in the midfield with Adams, but I mean, I would have played Musa here. You probably would have played Scally on the right. You would have probably played Musa here, and then you get Adams and Musa into these two areas, and now Diego Luna is a player, unlike Pulisic who wants to receive the ball up here. Diego Luna is a player who wants to get the ball in these pockets. Help in phase two of buildup, and so he can get on the half turn, get at defenders. Then you can get Pulisic driving in towards here. You get Adjumang in here. Weah is still holding the width, and now you have an attack where Luna's picking the ball up here, and he's got options. That was a massive amount of misprofiling by Pochettino. Listen, I'm not in the halftime talks, but playing Diego Luna, who's somebody who had an amazing match against Canada, who I was calling out for in that Panama match, who is clearly the type of player we were missing, who wants to receive the ball in between the lines, run at defenders on the half turn, make something happen, be creative. Yes, losing the ball is okay. Diego Luna lost the ball tons of times in this match, but he also recovered the ball tons of time in this match because he was trying to make something happen. He was trying to be the focal point of our attack and in our build-up play, which is where we struggled so much. The few times we got the ball into the final third into these players, I mean, not even really McKennie, but really these players, we did quite well. Weah did quite well. He's really good when he gets that ball in the final third and he's able to either attack this way, get to the byline and throw it across, find Adjumang into this corner, or find Pulisic drifting into the middle. We don't struggle when we get to that final third under Pochettino, where I think we struggled a lot under Berhalter, right? Under Berhalter, we got the ball into the final third and then there was nothing interesting happening. I actually think we've done well in the final third. We've created good chances. We should have scored way more goals based on the chances we created during this international break. But our issue has been, I mean, I know this looks silly right now, and this is just by accident because I've been dragging players everywhere, but we've been struggling so much because we've had this issue of Adams kind of getting stuck in here, no width being held in any way in the opening parts, and McKennie or Tessman or Pulisic, whoever it might have been in these first two matches, is leaving Adams out on an island. And so what you're getting is literally something that looks like this. Adams has the ball here. There's a line four here, a line of four here of defenders. So he goes out here to Arsene. Then Scally kind of pops in here. Oh, there's nothing. Whip it here, back to Weah, nothing. And these three players are basically just being idle, and we never get our center striker the ball. It's really that simple. I mean, the thing with Pochettino is his system so much relies on a couple of key focal points. And again, I've said at the beginning, I don't want to use this as an excuse, but the lack of fullbacks that we have, especially during this international break, but the fact that we were without Antony and the fact that we've still been without Serginho Dest is absolutely killing us. And of course, the fact that we don't have a striker. I mean, obviously it goes without saying, when you're missing a striker, you're missing any starting players, it's a huge impact. You should still beat Panama. You should still find a way to beat Panama and then get to the final. Whatever happens in the final, that's the next story. But not beating Panama is obviously a huge mistake. And there's no defense for that. We still had a better team on the pitch. We should have gone out and win it. But I do want to make this have some positive spin to look forward to the Gold Cup and obviously what's to come, and not just be like Pochettino's a terrible manager. We still suck. Didn't matter about Berhalter, yada, yada, yada. There were some promising signs from Pochettino in those Jamaica matches. I think we can all agree with that. There were some certain patterns of play that were really encouraging. So let's look at how that should look. I don't know that this will be the Gold Cup side. I think there still will be a huge MLS influence. But just to get back to probably what our best 11 is, and there's obviously some players that are going to get subbed in and out of here depending on all sorts of different things, depending on injury, depending on how they play for their club, depending on how they play for the United States, what they put their effort in. And, I just to get back to the effort thing, there was a couple of times in that Canada match where you saw what it meant to the Canadian players to be playing for Canada. They were getting back in droves. They were getting back and getting in the way of shots when it seemed like the U.S. men's national team was in position to get a great opportunity on goal, but they were getting their bodies on the line. And then you watch the few goals that Canada scored, where you basically had the back line standing on their own. Cameron Carter-Vickers, who I have said time and time again, cannot play for the U.S. men's national team. He is simply too slow to react. He can play in a very deep line. He can play in a hugely dominant possession-based team, but there's too many times where he is too slow to react. And quite frankly, you could pin both of these goals on Cameron Carter-Vickers that we gave up against Canada. In that first goal, he was just standing there and trying to put his knee in front of a shot after the ball was just sitting there. It's the same thing that happened in the Celtic-Bayern Munich match where Bayern Munich scored in the last minute. Cameron Carter-Vickers is a ball watcher, and you can't be a ball watcher as a center back. You're going to get beat. And the same thing happened on the second one. Mark McKenzie had two players. He had to track the run of the one player. So Cameron Carter-Vickers, who's marking nobody, needs to step towards Jonathan David, who's on the ball. But he doesn't. He just kind of waits for Jonathan David to take a shot. He throws his leg out there hoping for the best. Jonathan David is much better than that, easily scores. And he's just not the level. Anyway, here's what I think the formation will look like. It's funny because we're all used to, I think especially Americans who, and this is obviously to no insult, but we're used to setting formations on FIFA. This is what a formation looks like. So this is what we're going to see in a starting 11 formation. They always put us in a 4-2-3-1 with some sort of pivot, and it looks something like this. But In possession, what it'll look like is probably something more like Weah holding super high and wide on the right, Antony holding super high and wide on the left. This is how Pochettino plays. Just think about 2016 Tottenham, right? This is Danny Rose. This is Kyle Walker. This is Harry Kane. Then you've got your two very talented kind of attacking midfield types. One who is more willing, who's going to play right off of the striker. That's Pulisic. He's going to play off of Balogun. You have Tillman, who's going to probably get more involved in build-up. This could be Tillman. This could be Weston McKennie. This could be Gio Reyna. This could be Diego Luna, for all that I know. I mean, this is the perfect profile for Diego Luna, by the way. Playing as this kind of Christian Eriksen type of player who wants to get the ball, not in the first phase, but wants to get the ball in phase two, wants to drive, have his players that he's running with in front of him. That's the kind of player that we want here. And I think Malik Tillman can do that job. We've seen him play deeper. When he was at Rangers on loan, he played a little bit deeper. At PSV, we've seen him play all over the place. We've seen him play at left wing. We've seen him play as attacking midfielder, definitely on the more attacking side of things. But you get a Tillman who's kind of operating in this spaces. These two players are here. I mean, often you're going to have Balogun dropping in here, playing it out wide, and then you've got Pulisic as your furthest forward attacker. And then you've got kind of this back three that's going to be formed and a double pivot. So you might think, oh, Dest is not going to drop into this back three because he's not a center back, out of possession, in possession. You're not. You're right. He's not. What you need is Serginho Dest partnering Adams. And then you get something like this as your back three in possession. You get three solid ball playing, dominant aerial players who can handle if this ball comes bouncing back out, who can handle defensive responsibility. Keep in mind, Tanner Tessman has played center back. Tanner Tessman gets to operate in this area. You get this little pivot going where Dest, who is so good at inverting, gets the ball into these areas. He can take up some area here. If he does, you get this kind of midfield three at times. I mean, obviously, it's much better if Turner is a ball-playing goalkeeper because he can drop in here in possession as well in the build-up, and then you can get this kind of build-up going on before you get into phase three. But really, what it is, it's just a simple 3-2-4-1 in possession where you get all your players in their best positions, right? I mean, again, let's just think about this as, what Pochettino's been doing forever. This is nothing new. The only difference is you kind of have this central midfielder, Tanner Tessman, who in possession sometimes has to drop in here as your third center back in possession, which he can do. He's very good with his entire team in front of him, able to spray the ball. And listen, he's going to get up here sometimes. Das is going to get up here sometimes. They're going to drop into this kind of role. These two guys will be left alone against, when we're dominating possession against some lower level teams. It's not uncommon. And obviously Anthony's getting high and wide, but at times Anthony's going to be here. And at times it's going to look something like this, where Pulisic is your furthest left player. You've got, Tillman here. You've got Dest inverting in between the lines here. And then you've got this kind of thing going on. And this also works. The dynamics work. This is the idea of Pochettino's system is you get your best players into the positions they can dominate in. And truthfully, it's about these three players, really Balogun too, but these three players getting into attacking positions where they can make things happen. But how do we get the ball there? We get the ball there with the likes of Adams and Tessman and Dest being involved in build-up, with Tillman dropping in, or Diego Luna. And Diego Luna deserves so much praise for the way he played in that second match. He could have easily been frustrated by the fact that he didn't get a single minute against Panama. I mean, the fact that Pochettino said we were playing for the 90th minute to get Diego Luna on in extra time is beyond me against Panama. You need to 0-0 against Panama is the same thing as losing. You need to be going out and attacking them. They had one shot on goal and they scored from it. Go out and get a goal and win the game so that cannot happen. And Diego Luna was the exact kind of player we needed. And I saw someone in the comments be like, central access is such an American way. No, central access is a very commonly talked about issue across the game, and it's something that we struggle with desperately for years. And Diego Luna is the exact profile of player we need who can receive there. And truthfully, Yunus Musa should be too, and it comes back to what I was talking about with misprofiling. But Yunus Musa is another type of player who, if he can get the ball, I mean, he probably doesn't work with this lineup, but just in the games we were just watching, like if we go back to here, if you had Yunus Musa playing in this Luna role or playing in the McKennie role, then you could easily get him driving at players. And I think Tyler Adams deserves all the praise in the world. He has been absolutely excellent in the last few matches he's played for the U.S. men's national team. Obviously for Bournemouth, he's been incredible. He can play a lone six. No problem at all. But his one issue, and maybe not an issue, but his one drawback as a player is he can't be responsible solely for buildup. He cannot be the one player who gets the ball from phase one to phase two. He needs somebody near him who can give him an option to play the ball to. Too many times, honestly, in this Canada match, he had nobody. He lost possession. He wins it back because that's what he does great. But he's not the type of player who is both going to win the ball back and then also spring the attack. That's not normally the player that Tyler Adams is. And so he does need somebody who's going to be with him here. And I think, out of possession, you're obviously looking at something like this. And so it's probably more like that out of possession, right? Like you probably have Pulisic and Balogun as this kind of trigger situation. And then obviously the press depends on which way they go. So if it goes out here, Weah, Tessman drops in here, you're pushing it this way. If it comes out the other way, you probably get Anthony going high and wide, Tessman dropping here, Tillman coming in here, Weah back here. So Adams can do all of this alone out of possession. There's no problem. He will cover all of this ground. But when it comes back into possession and we get the ball and you drop back into probably something like this, and Adams receives the ball here, Des needs to pop in here, help him with buildup. You can get the ball out high and wide. You've got these two playing off each other. It's really not that complicated. And this is what we expected from Pochettino. If you remember when we hired Pochettino 5 months ago, this is exactly how we spoke about him. This is exactly what we expected to see from him. And I think we saw some of that in the Jamaica game. Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson, though, are the keys to the way he's going to play. Everywhere we've seen Pochettino go, it has had to do with how his fullbacks are going to play. That's the way his system works. And, when Joe Scally's being asked to play on the left side and you have Yunus Musa playing right back, or when Joe Scally's playing right back, and then you have Max Arston at left back, who's not a left back, and he's not really playing left back, but he's slotted at left back, and you have people kind of constantly dropping in there. Tyler Adams was dropping in there. Like, it's hard for Pochettino's system to work, and he needs to be able to adapt when that happens because you don't always get to choose your strongest 11. This is not an excuse for Pochettino. He did poorly during this break, but these dynamics will work when he gets his correct players out there. And it's not like it has to be this exact group of players, right? Balogun can be Pepe, no problem. Tillman can be Luna. I don't think Reyna can play this role, but it could easily be Luna. It could be Musa. I think it can be McKennie, but from what I've seen from McKennie, I'm not trying to put him into my starting 11 at the very moment. Adams, I mean, honestly, it can be Cardoso. Like, it could be so many people. Tessman could be McKennie. Like, there are plenty of options for this to work. If it's Tessman, if it's McKennie, then you probably have Cardoso dropping in more into this back three in possession, and then you get a McKennie Dest pivot. It's not perfect, but it can work. It's not completely flawed. I mean, obviously, this is a flaw. Hence, Turner, please no, would really like to find a new number one goalkeeper. He's just really, the lack of playing time is showing for him. He's just not in the right positions. He's making bad decisions on the ball. But Pochettino has the tools. He has the players. It needs to be better. It simply needs to be better. And I don't think that we can go to the Gold Cup and play MLS players. I think there's room for a lot of them. I'd like to see the Gold Cup include, the likes of maybe Nathaniel Brown, Arnie Chase, Noah Kai Banks. This is a key opportunity. This break he was supposed to be recruiting. It's a key opportunity to get some dual nationals to flip over, get their first taste of the U.S. men's national team at the Gold Cup, get into the side. Sure, get Noah Kai Banks in there. To let Tim Ream sit at home during the Gold Cup and rest up because he'll probably be at the World Cup, but we need to move on from him. It needs to be McKenzie and Chris Richards. And McKenzie was, I thought, very, very good in this Canada match. I've really been impressed by him. I could see him leaving Toulouse this summer. He's really been very, very good for them, and he's a very aggressive center back. Him and Richards will make a good pairing. But yeah, go get Noah Kai Banks, Arnie Chase, Nathaniel Brown. Get two of them to sign up for the U.S. men's national team. Damian Downs, we need another striking type, attacking midfielder. Damian Downs is the exact type of striker profile who likes to get involved in build-up, who Pulisic can play off of in that central attacking role. Even though Pulisic will be playing off the left wing, he needs to come play off that second striker. That's where he's been great. Go get Damian Downs. There's players out there who are dual nationals who would get the opportunity right now to play for a senior national team versus if they try and wait to play for Germany or Japan or wherever their home country is, they're waiting years. We can offer them an opportunity to play in the Gold Cup this summer for the U.S. men's national team, for Mauricio Pochettino to learn under him. That's still a big draw. I know we're all very frustrated with it, but Pochettino is still a very big draw as a manager. And so he needs to take that ability to recruit and go out and get those players. And we have to go out and win the Gold Cup. I mean, Pochettino, you would say he probably should win the Nations League and the Gold Cup, but the Nations League fourth place that's a worst case scenario. He has to go win the Gold Cup now. And you know what? Maybe that'll be for the best. Maybe we'll get to see our players. Maybe we'll get to see Serginho Dest for the first time in over a year in the U.S. men's national team kit. We'll get to see Anthony Robinson play some minutes. And they're not going to play every minute. I'd like to see John Tolkien get back into the side, get an opportunity, because John Tolkien's a perfect type of player like Anthony who can bomb this wing, but if necessary, he can drop in here as well. And you can get back into this kind of higher and wider. This won't be McKennie. This will be maybe Musa, for lack of, whatever. Maybe Musa drops in here, or it's Tillman, whatever it might be. But John Tolkien can do this role as well. So I'd like to see him get into the side. Maybe James Sands will get into the side. Players who went out and tried to prove to Pochettino that they can go play in Germany and unfortunately got injured. Maybe Kevin Paredes will get into the side, who hasn't played all year. Griffin Yao. Like players, maybe not just MLS players, but players who are going to work hard in the next year to get into the World Cup side, because we need players who are willing to work hard on and off the ball. The work ethic off the ball was just not good enough, both in and out of possession, and that's on Pochettino to get the best out of his players. An overall very disappointing international break for the U.S., but we move forward. We've got a couple more months of club football before the Gold Cup and those friendlies in June. Christian Pulisic, we hope, will end the season strong. Thiago Motta was just fired, so let's see how that affects Tim Weah and Weston McKennie. It looks like Ricardo Pepi and Malik Tillman will not play the rest of the year, but Serginho Dest coming back into the side, so we'll be following him very closely. Anthony Robinson and his pursuit with Fulham to try and make some level of European football, get a top half finish. I mean, I was reading something that as high as 10th place could get European football in the Premier League this year due to the way the cups and the coefficient are shaking out. So very, very intriguing thing to watch there. So again, hit the subscribe button here on Yanks Abroad. Make sure you are following us on TikTok and Twitter as well. I'll be doing very in-depth match analysis on player performances every single week. It's usually 2 or 3 player performances on YouTube and on TikTok every single week, talking about the good, the bad, how it relates to the U.S. men's national team. We're going to be covering those dual nationals as well, who are not quite U.S. players yet, but Noah Kai Banks, Arnie Chase, Nathaniel Brown, those are the 3 biggest names. Damian Downs as well is a big name that people are talking about, so I'll be covering him there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week here on Yanks Abroad.